Introducing our tough one, the 1970 Chevelle SS396. It's a great performer, except for one thing. No one gives it a chance to perform. Not that we can blame them. After all, there's a lot to admire about the new Chevelle SS396.
Your car?
Hey, what's that?
In November of 2017, Pilot Car Registry was asked to document and authenticate F100042, a 1970 396 SS Chevelle that was believed to be a pre-production Pilot for the 1970 model line. We had followed the national story of this car since we had first viewed it at SEMA in 2016. The cranberry red coupe had been spotlighted in many national magazines during its unveil, but the factory history was always speculated upon, not definitively proven. This piqued Pilot Car Registry's interest because this is precisely what our subject matter expertise specializes in. Since 2010, our organization had documented the factory history on over 60 Pilot prototypes, and our personal inspection protocol would finally answer the questions that had arisen throughout the hobby regarding this car. The current curator of F100042, David Harder, lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana, so we pointed our volunteers northeast and we set out to find the answers. We had read the articles regarding the speculated factory origins of this car, but without the professional involvement, the authors had left the historical significance of this car open for the interpretation of the reader. Additionally, the car had been compared to two midstream General Assembly line constructed LS6 Chevelles that had been documented as pilots because of handwritten notes on build sheets. This had caused an enormous amount of confusion within the hobby and was the precise content of articles that our group had written for Muscle Car Review. General Motors Pilot Plant Assembly had a wide-ranging General Motors prototype program. These test studies accomplished many simultaneous goals. Among these were engineering and feasibility, assembly time and fitment, and coordinating design engineers with the vendor network. If this doesn't seem complex enough already, these prototype studies and hand-built assembly programs worked together with several divisions for testing in a final evaluation phase. These divisions were sales, both at the national sales and convention level, as well as the local publicity levels. Engineering and testing at the Milford Proving Grounds, engineering, body of design, and manufacturing. In addition, many of these pilot prototypes were utilized by General Motors executives for daily transportation, allowing for personal evaluation by leaders of the respective divisions prior to assembly line commencement. Sounds pretty complicated, huh? Well, it is, and it was. And this is precisely the reason that the car hobby has so many definitions of what a pilot is. By definition, this term means the first of something. This could be the testing of a changing drivetrain in a pre-existing model, the subtle body line and interior updates from a model line upgrade in the upcoming year, or the complete and daunting task of creating an entirely new model in the first year of design and development. The confusion of the LS6 equipped 1970 Chevelles with build sheets from General Assembly line production was easily rectified within our archives. These two midstream General Production Chevelles were the beneficiaries of a pilot drivetrain program when the option of the 454 was introduced. With all of the pre-production testing of the entirety of the car already complete, the pilot plant involvement in this changeover would be limited to the development on the drivetrain necessary for this new option. The pilot plant would supply the 454 and the necessary components for assembly in a prototype fashion, but the installation and the time studies were orchestrated on a general production assembly line, utilizing mass manufactured automobiles. These general production assembly line pilot activities are well understood because of the existence of the build sheets, but we were in search of something far more elusive. Pilot Car Registry understands the historical importance of all General Motors pilot activities, but our area of intense research is held within the pre-production programs. These are programs that are truly prototypical in virtually every sense of the word. These automobiles are referred to as pilot prototypes and were predominantly assembled in a hand-built atmosphere, one at a time until completion. They were done in consecutive VIN number order, utilizing pre-production and prototype parts, carryover and prototype sheet metal, and had significant differences from their general production assembly line vehicular counterparts. Although the most complex pilot prototype activities are encompassed within the pre-production development of an entirely new model line prior to the first year of release and sale.
The last touches of styling and trim detail are considered on a full-scale fiberglass model. It won't run, but it looks enough like the real thing to fool an expert.
Prototypes that do run
are next on the schedule. Time for the showdown.
The pre-production development of generational model changes is historically monumental as well, and that was what we were attempting to authenticate. You'd think that'd be simple, but it's not. Pilot Car Registry has a stringent protocol for authenticating and blessing these surviving examples. First of all, the automobile must meet the qualifications of being definitively pre-production. Second, it must be in possession of a substantial amount of prototypical assembly parts from its hand-built format. And finally, there must be a documented ownership chain that spans close to birth. It's a high bar, but the historical significance of these General Motors programs cannot be compromised by illegitimate acceptance. With all this understood, the story of our research of F1000042 begins after arrival of our team in Fort Wayne, Indiana. David and his lovely fiancée, Crystal, met us the night before for dinner. David was understandably excited, and we recognized his emotions right away. Here was a guy that loved cars, like all of us, but also had ventured outside of his comfort zone to pursue and document a priceless piece of General Motors history. It hadn't started that way. He had bought the car to enjoy it, but when he quickly realized the significance during disassembly, he began a quest that strayed a long way from the simplistic nature of procuring and enjoying an antique automobile. Upon realization of the potential significance, he saved everything. He not only saved everything, he made every effort to reuse all the restorable components. This was a guy after our own hearts, and the hearts of all Chevelle enthusiasts throughout the globe. In addition to restoring this example suitable for a coastal concours d'elegance, he had documented the prior ownership chain as well. At that point, still professionally skeptical, our team began to share his excitement. The authentication process began the following morning. 4 hours of extensive inspection, utilizing still and video photography ensued. As I said before, our team has lengthy experience in documenting and authenticating these pilot prototypes, but this example was special. F1000042 was in possession of virtually every example of a prototype part that we had experienced. Many of these parts are discarded when a car undergoes a lengthy restoration, replaced with something that is shiny and new. These reproduction parts take the place of priceless original gems that can never be replaced, and portions of historical relevance are lost forever. From its humble retrieval as an intact pilot prototype that only the most discerning of eyes could recognize, emerged a restored example that exemplified one man's quest to save and restore history. This resonated with us. This is precisely what Pilot Car Registry was created for. The reason that professionals within their fields donated their time and expertise. The reason that we had driven 13 hours at the bequest of one man, all in the search of something monumental and elusive. In possession of carryover and prototype sheet metal, carryover and prototype parts marked Pilot and Advance, prototype interior components, and unmolested VIN and trim tags that matched our internal archival research. This example was also documented in vintage photos and prior title chains spanning close to birth. Combined with this desirable build configuration, this project was a landmark achievement for the owner and Pilot Car Registry. Although the end-use evaluation process cannot be ascertained at this time, it is our professional opinion that this particular example was utilized as an engineering test prototype before being equipped with the drivetrain that was capable of being warrantied, as an arranged, pre-done deal by participating dealer Verhoeven Chevrolet of Detroit, Michigan. It's for these reasons that Pilot Car Registry would like to formally recognize F1000042 as one of the most historically significant surviving examples of the car known today as the Chevrolet Chevelle. At the time of this research, it is the only known surviving pilot prototype Chevelle configured as a coupe. The only other surviving pilot prototype Chevelle known by Pilot Car Registry is that of a 1967 Chevrolet El Camino. This distinction is closely held for pre-production prototypes only and represents the historical significance that they deserve.